Hello, and welcome to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast, where we discuss nonprofit technology, cybersecurity, tech project implementation, strategic planning, and nonprofit IT careers. Find us at communityit.com.
I want to welcome everyone to the Community IT Innovators presentation on bleeding edge nonprofit tech. We have a panel of our senior staff here today to talk about cutting edge and future trends in technology and what that means for nonprofits. We're going to talk about some fun stuff like AI as it relates to tech companies and products. And we're going to try and give you some ideas on how your nonprofit can take advantage of these opportunities, but also try not to get burned by some big, hot, hypey tech that's not really going to go anywhere. My name is Carolyn Woodard. I'm the Outreach Director for Community IT. I am moderator today. I'm happy to hear from our experts. So, Nura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Nura Aboki. I'm a senior consultant at Community IT, and I oversee technology infrastructure for select clients, providing strategic IT advice, recommending IT solutions, and solution designs to meet business objectives for our clients. So I'm excited to be here and just happy to be, this is my first N10 panelist conference, so excited to talk about AI bleeding edge technology. Johan, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Nura. Hello, everybody. My name is Johan Hammerstrom. I'm the CEO at Community IT. I've been here for over 20 years. I've been working with nonprofits and helping them with technology throughout that time. The first N10 I attended was the NTC in Seattle in 2006. And the buzzy technology at that time was Facebook. It was like this brand new thing. So I'm looking forward to talking today about what is buzzy now in 2023.
That's great. That's a great way to think about it, right? Like what was buzzy 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So before we begin, if you're not familiar with Community IT, a little bit about us. We are a 100% employee-owned managed services provider, and we provide outsourced IT support. We work exclusively with nonprofit organizations, and our mission is to help nonprofits accomplish their missions through the effective use of technology. We are big fans of what well-managed IT can do for your nonprofit. We serve nonprofits across the United States, and we've been doing this for over 20 years. We are technology experts, and we are consistently given MSP 501 recognition for being a top MSP, which is an honor we received again in 2022. So I did see, I think some of you may be familiar with us, but just to get that there. All right, so today, give us some learning objectives. Today, we are going to dive into forward-looking trends and opportunities that nonprofits want to pursue. And we're going to talk about the ways we expect nonprofit IT and IT generally to evolve over the next few years. So our learning objectives are to learn about cutting-edge technologies, making a play for a nonprofit market, things like blockchain, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence. We are going to learn how to evaluate the hype against real business needs and IT needs. And we don't have time to talk really about how to make a roadmap, but if you have your IT roadmap and your needs in mind as you're looking at these new technologies, that can really help you guide where you're going to invest. And of course, become a sparkling, knowledgeable conversationalist with thoughtful opinions on bleeding edge tech, which is what we all strive to be. I want to remind everyone that for these presentations, we're vendor agnostic. So we're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff today, but we'd only make recommendations for our clients. But we love talking about all of this stuff. All right. So we're going to start out with a poll. How cutting edge are you? And let me launch that. Okay. So how cutting edge are you? You accept crypto donations. You use AI tools, artificial intelligence tools, or are starting to use them this year. You start using cybersecurity tools as soon as they are on the market. You're very forward-looking in cybersecurity. You're on all the social media platforms that I've never heard of, but your kids use. Or you love open source platforms and custom apps, or not applicable, or we are not cutting edge and we admit it. So I'm often feel like I'm firmly in that camp of, I like to read about a lot of this stuff, but it takes a while before it filters down into something that I'm going to end up using. So, and Johan, do you feel like can you see I should have asked you that before. Can you see the results?
Yes, I can see the results.
Could you read them for us?
I sure can. So we had 11% of respondents accept crypto donations. 19% of respondents use AI tools or are starting to use them this year. 9% using cybersecurity tools. 2% on all the social media platforms. 13% love open source platforms and custom apps. And 47% are not cutting edge and are not afraid to admit it.
I love it. All right. All right. So thank you everyone for filling that in. That really helps us get a feel for where you are and why you are here to listen to our experts. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about nonprofit trends. And I just want to read this for anyone visually impaired. Technology and work are always changing, but we are living through a sea change right now. I don't think many people would object to that phrasing. No one knows what nonprofit work and technology will be like in the future, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So, Johan and Nura, do you want to make kind of an opening statement of what is the most important future tech stories nonprofits should be paying attention to right now? Johan, you want to start us out?
Sure. So I just want to say, for those of you who are not cutting edge and not afraid to admit it, that is a great place to be. It's called cutting edge or bleeding edge for a reason. So if you're at this session to learn more, we're happy that you're here. Don't ever feel bad that you're not using the latest and greatest technology. There's an adoption curve that comes with every new technology that's released. And more often than not, nonprofits really benefit from waiting until new technology really becomes mainstream and a lot of the costs and bugs and issues have worked out of it. So if you walk away from this session having learned a little bit more, but also feeling confident in your current approach to technology, I think that's a win. It's probably comes as no surprise to any of you that, in my view, the key IT and overall technology trend for nonprofits and the world is going to be AI. That's something that has really, back when we first pitched this session to N10, it wasn't as obvious. And if you've been paying attention to a lot of the news and everything that's been coming out over the last few months, AI has really sort of leapt to the forefront of our imaginations, our fears, our nightmares. And I think it's real, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I think AI is going to become the dominant technology trend.
Nura, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I agree with you, Johan. And certainly for those that haven't yet started trying it out, there shouldn't be any worry that, hey, we are late to the game. It's just in the experimental phase now, the discovery phase for it. But certainly, it's really a big trend as we move forward into the future.
We are going to save that that's, I think, one of our slides that's a little bit further along. So we're going to start out by talking about blockchain. And I think a lot of people think of blockchain as crypto, but Johan, you had this great example where you were talking about DocuSign and how we are still signing papers even though they're electronic. So do you want to talk a little bit more about blockchain? Yeah,
I'll just really briefly. Blockchain is basically a technique, and it's a way of verifying a transaction. And there's sort of two different ways of transaction verification that you can handle that. One is to use a centralized authority, and the other is to use a decentralized model. And this whole question of centralized versus decentralized is an issue that the internet really enables. So in many ways, blockchain is an internet-enabled technique that has been used primarily for cryptocurrency. And the dream or the promise of blockchain is that you don't need a centralized authority to verify transactions. The challenge of blockchain and the challenge of any decentralized technology is that individuals have to host their own, wallets or servers or technology. And the trend with the internet over the last 20 to 25 years is towards centralization. And many of you have probably experienced this in your offices, right? You used to have an email server sitting in your closet that was decentralized. That was something that you managed for yourself. And over the last 10 or 15 years, we've all moved our email into the cloud, and we now pay, or for nonprofits, a minimal amount for Microsoft or no amount for Google, someone else to manage that email for you. So the dream of blockchain was that you didn't need a centralized authority, but the challenge is, how do you incent people to run their own verification servers in this large-scale peer-to-peer network? And the solution that cryptocurrency came up with was an economic incentive that if you run a server, you will, generate these bitcoins over time. And that's the economic incentive to run this large distributed model. In many ways, it's no different from Napster. For those of you who are around, 25 years ago, very similar model, where it was a peer-to-peer network. At that time, the economic incentive was free music. So anyways, this technique of blockchain, there's still the possibility that it could become widely used, but a lot of large companies are looking at using blockchain for things like digital rights management. So, like Disney is exploring blockchain as a way of cutting down on piracy. It hasn't really, nothing's come of it, significant has come of it yet, but we'll see what happens. The one area where it obviously has been gaining traction is with cryptocurrency, although I think one of the things that's become pretty obvious over the last year is that the promise of blockchain, this decentralized currency, sort of ran into the reality of bad actors, people with bad intent. And I think a lot of people have sort of gotten disenchanted with a decentralized model because it doesn't necessarily protect you from theft or incompetence or a lot of the things that have caused people to lose their cryptocurrency.
I feel like that might be another area where people in nonprofits know about cryptocurrency if they know a nonprofit or themselves have been subject to ransomware. Often the ransom is, they want to get the ransom in crypto. And so it's something else that you might want to know what it is, but maybe you don't need to be, using it as much. Nura, did you want to weigh in on blockchain?
Yes, I think someone just asked a question about environmental impact, and all of this computers that do the computation to host some crypto data consume a lot of power and energy, and it has a negative impact to the environment. So there has been some awareness that is coming to that, even though there's the monetary incentive and the financial gains that cryptocurrency businesses go into, but the environmental factor is enormous. The energy cost is quite high. So as nonprofit organizations, I think that awareness has been helpful. There are innovations, though, in the area of energy conservation and energy use, but they are still in its primitive phase. So the environmental impact is still a big issue as we consider blockchain to be a future trend down the road.
I feel like that illustrates something that nonprofits kind of are always very cognizant as well when they're embracing technology, are the secondary, maybe third layer of effects that those technologies might have on their issue area. Like if you're a nonprofit working in an environment, you would definitely be highly aware of this aspect. Okay, I want to move us along to, I know, Nura, this is an area that you have a lot of interest in, virtual and augmented reality and potential training uses for it. So would you like to take on this slide?
Yes, so certainly. Thank you. Augmented reality, virtual reality, we've seen this in the past 3 or 4 years. And The big one is Meta. It's exactly what Facebook rebranded. That is a technology that they are heavily invested in. And there's so much potential if the technology is done right. From medical fields where a doctor is able to just wear the pair of glasses and see a CT scan of my chest or something, or from a mechanic trying to fix a car remotely and needs help. And the virtual reality glasses can be used as perhaps a guide to give them a visual of what they need to fix, or even a novice who perhaps doesn't have any idea how to cook a meal. Those augmented reality solutions are able to show them how to put together that recipe and cook a perfect meal. So there is so much potential with augmented reality and virtual reality in the field, especially nonprofit organizations that do have a lot of volunteer opportunities. They do a lot of field work. This is a solution that can go a long way into helping least privileged societies actually take that leap and get the much needed support that is needed there in those regions. Johan?
Yeah, I'm seeing some great comments in the chat from attendees who've used VR in different contexts, using it with patients that have dementia, using it for doing virtual hospital and patient visits, using it to show donors the work that they're doing, which is the really creative and interesting uses. I think like you said, Nura, there's a lot of potential around VR and AR. I think the reality will depend on how well the technology progresses. So are we in the mobile phone? Is this like 2003 with smartphones? And we're like, oh, it's never going to happen. These things are so slow. They're so small. They don't work well. And then we're 4 years away from the iPhone coming out and kind of revolutionizing the space. We just don't know yet. Right now, the VR headsets tend to be very expensive. They tend to be heavy, not particularly performant. A lot of people report, headaches with extended usage. So it's possible that if the technology doesn't advance much beyond where it is now, then there will be niche use cases for it, like the kinds we've been talking about, but maybe not the immersive metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg has spoken of. For that to happen would really require a revolution in the technology itself, which we just haven't seen yet. So it's an interesting space. I think it's one that it's good to keep an eye on, but we're not it doesn't seem like it's right around the corner in the way that the next technology we're going to talk about is.
That's what I was going to say. Is in the interest of time, I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk about AI, which is something that many people in the beginning had said they were interested in. So go ahead. I think, Johan, you were going to lead off this slide.
Yeah, I think, I heard a really good quote about AI, which is AI is always the next technology, and the previous technology actually isn't AI anymore. So like when Siri first came out, it was pretty incredible that it could do voice recognition, and it's like, oh, that's artificial intelligence. And then as people started to use Siri, they're like, well, there's nothing intelligent about this system at all. And then it's no longer AI, and then AI is kind of the next thing. So what we're experiencing right now are these large language learning models, which are, basically AI, the AI that we're ChatGPT, OpenAI, Stable Diffusion, all of these tools that have been released over the last year are enabled by the internet. So basically, these tools are pulling enormous amounts of data from all across the internet, and then they're training these models and developing these models that are built on the very large data centers that now exist to support the internet. So none of this would be happening. It's not like there's some new formula that someone discovered. This is the result of research work that's been going on for years now, that's enabled by all of the data on the internet, particularly all of the image data, all of the photos that we all have uploaded, over the last 15 to 20 years, all of the text that gets moved up to the internet, all of that gets sucked into these large learning models. And the important thing to remember is that it's really the AI is kind of the domain of the largest tech companies. So it's Microsoft has an equity stake in OpenAI. Google has developed their own AI models. Amazon is developing one. And really, those are the only entities that can do this because it requires massive amounts of computing power to develop these models. And they're obviously looking for commercial uses for this AI. So we're kind of in this interesting moment where it's pretty incredible what they're able to do, but they're looking for commercial uses for this technology. And Microsoft in particular is starting to roll it out, looking for how AI Copilot can be integrated into Microsoft Office. It's like a new Clippy, basically, like we're going to get the Clippy that we always wanted.
I think that's great. I think you made a great distinction between cutting edge technology that's going to be intrinsically, like focused or have a special use case specific to nonprofits and nonprofit work versus some cutting edge technology that's just going to be all around us and that we'll be using for everything. And thus nonprofits will be using it too for the things that we're going to be doing. Nura, did you want to weigh in on artificial intelligence?
Yeah, it's a big subject and I wish we had more time, but certainly one of the concerns I have is the ethical use of AI. And also how AI is going to be accessible to nonprofits of smaller sizes. You have a mission that has maybe 2 people organizations or 5 people organization. How accessible is this technology? Easily usable. There could be smaller organizations that may not have the technical skills to learn these tools, but may make them at a disadvantage. So how this technology is built to assist the entire industry is important for us in the nonprofit sector.
I think I put on here as well we're not endorsing anything that's on this slide, but I feel like I've been getting emails for a couple, maybe 4 or 5 years now about AI being able to like go through my database of major donors and tell me exactly when to ask them for those, major gifts. And just, like it's going to slice my bread and butter it for me too. And that just seems like, I don't know, it's maybe wishful thinking, I think. Or maybe that the nonprofit sector is, as often happens, there's people see a market and then are trying to convince you that there's some new tech that you absolutely must have that's going to like raise your fundraising by that much by, next Tuesday. And it's always good to be skeptical of those kinds of claims.
I think it's important to be aware of AI, but I don't think anyone should feel like they need to run out right now and start using AI. I think how to use these systems is going to evolve dramatically over time. How to craft prompts, how to interact with the systems, and the big vendors like Microsoft and Google that are making these systems available, like they're going to refine these, this software over time as well. So don't feel like you're late to the party, and I think it's an area where moving somewhat cautiously is probably better than jumping into it, at least when it comes to figuring out how to use it at your organization.
We had some questions or someone put in the chat about policies. Do you guys want to touch on policy?
Well, I think that's still being developed. I mean, ethicists are still kind of struggling with the questions that are coming, and that's why I feel like caution is probably the right approach. So, I mean, you could that's a great question. It's probably worth adding things like Bing Chat, or the Copilot software that Microsoft is going to be releasing with Windows and Office. Maybe, having some messaging to staff about how to use it, how not to use it. But we're still in very early days. So to me, it sort of is a subset of approved technologies that organizations should be defining in their IT policies. And if this is not approved yet, then that's important to communicate.
We had a question come in about cybersecurity issues and how to stay ahead of cybersecurity requirements and trends. And I feel like that's an entire other presentation. We're running out of time here too, but it's a great question because I feel like a lot of times nonprofits and just, people in general feel like we're trying to catch up with stuff that like hackers and computer experts already know. So you want to just give us a few final words on that?
Well, Carolyn, you and I were talking about this morning, and we were like, we have this incident report that we release every year. And we're like, the recommendations haven't changed in the last 5 years. And it's like, yeah, the threat landscape is kind of the same. I mean, there's cyber criminals that are trying to steal your money. And that's kind of the dominant risk that most organizations face. And training, basic security mitigation tools, and staff awareness is kind of the best things to do around security. It'll be interesting to see if AI sort of leads us into a new era of cybersecurity risk, and new mitigation is required in that new era to deal with that new risk. But that's an evolving topic, and we're not quite. The cyber criminals are also trying to figure out how to use AI. So it's kind of waiting at this point.
What is the most frequent challenge faced by nonprofit clients? That's a broad one. Let's narrow it slightly into cutting edge tech. Like what questions do clients ask us about new tech? Oh, I have stumped them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Do we still have a few seconds? So in recent times, mostly nonprofit do encounter cyber liability insurance requirements, and that leads into cybersecurity guidelines and roadmaps. So that's one of the most frequent we're getting these days.
Yeah, I think so. I think because we provide IT support, a lot of these questions are like kind of around technology or tools that sit on top of the support, the kind of support that we give. So, although cybersecurity does cut across it because you want to make sure that your systems are secure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody so much for coming. We had a great time. Thank you, all of the participants. Thank you again for joining us. Thanks.
Community IT does these free webinars and podcasts for our community, and we love sharing our knowledge and experience. If you have more questions or are having trouble with your IT at your nonprofit, please get in touch with us on our website, www.communityit.com, so we can start a conversation or schedule an assessment. Downloading any of our free resources there will get you signed up for our webinar reminders, and you can attend our next webinar in real time and ask our experts your own questions. If you love podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating to help others find this leadership resource for nonprofits.